Muhammad Ali coined the phrase that Buster Douglas made into a promise in Tokyo. I can still see and hear Ali, after upsetting Sonny Liston, yelling to singer Sam Cooke at ringside, "Sam, did I shock the world?" Gentlemen, I want to thank you for appearing with us at our studios. And before we start, could you shake hands and come out talking here? Both of you shocked the world in Tokyo. Buster, you in the ring, and Mike, you outside of the ring after the fight. Let's get to the controversy first and get through that. The impression left with all the business about the long count is that you and Don King tried to use your influence to either turn the decision around or to void it. And that after there was this huge public outcry, you decided to take a U-turn, a flip-flop, and say, we didn't quite mean that. What we meant was we wanted a rematch. Give us your spin on what that was all about.
Well, Larry, if you could recollect, no one was protesting, especially not myself. I was just pointing at the fact of what had happened. The referee, I gave my comment of what had happened. I mean, by no means, Buster fought a great fight. You don't want to take that away from him. You know what I mean? It would be cheap. You couldn't consider yourself champion if somebody defaults like that. But you know what I mean? He deserves being champion of the world, and I commend him on effort. You know what I mean? But you know what I mean? I by no means made a protest of changing the decision.
You did say afterwards, I consider myself still the champion. I don't think what happened was fair.
No, I said it wasn't fair what happened. But then again, how many things in boxing is not fair? You know what I mean? I had 37 good nights. But then again, I consider when I say I'm champion because I still consider myself the best fighter in the world.
Take us through the process. You go back to your dressing room after the fight. How did you first hear about this supposed long count? How was it presented to you? What was your reaction?
Before the fight, when the fight was, when I went in the dressing room, I commented, I said, that count was a little long, I said.
You did?
Yeah, I said, I thought that count was a little long. Not making a big deal of it, but then people that came and protested the situation, like the Japanese officials had came in, and the WBC and the WBA, and they made a big issue of the situation. But by all means, nobody's crying over spilled milk, you know what I mean? Buster, you know what I mean, if he believes he's the champion of the world, we'll do it again.
Buster, you take us through the process you went. When did you first hear that there was a protest being lodged, and what were your thoughts at that moment?
Once I got back to the hotel, I really didn't understand, you know, what the situation was totally about. Because as far as I knew, I was up before the count of 10. And they were saying it was a long count. And to my knowledge, it was at 6. Well, I picked it up at 6.
Did your manager, John Johnson, tell you about this?
Yeah, it was
What
John.
did he say to you? What did you say to him?
He said that Tyson and King were protesting the count in the 8th round.
Was there confusion at that moment? Was there fear that the fight could be voided? Or did that happen later?
No, it was, well, yeah, it was confusion. I didn't know exactly what the deal was, because all I was concerned with was getting my belts.
When you heard that the WBA and the WBC were withholding judgment on the entire fight, were you afraid that there was some political thing going on here that would cost you your victory?
Well, basically, I thought that, you know, it was bogus. I really didn't put any stock in it. And I figured that if it came down to me being stripped of the titles, then that the public would know who the real heavyweight champion was. They would recognize me because they seen the results of the fight.
When you finally did get home to Columbus, and there was still a furor, and it was still unknown what was going to happen, were your fears raised at that time?
No, it was a disappointment due to the fact that I didn't receive the championship belts. I mean, I was declared the winner in the ring, but yet, you know, I only received 1 belt. And then once I received the belt and got back to the hotel, they said that it was being protested and that the WBC and the WBA wasn't sanctioning the fight.
Did it ruin the party for you? Did it ruin the best time of your life in some way?
In one respect, it did. In another, the victory itself was still, I still felt that I won the fight, but it was just that it wasn't completed. being completed was receiving the belts.
Mike, you're a student of boxing history, perhaps the best student I've ever known of his sport. Jack Dempsey, when he lost to Tunney, said, "Honey, I forgot to duck." Muhammad Ali, when he lost to Joe Frazier, clutched his swollen jaw and said, "Boy, he could sure punch better than I thought he could." The impression that this left with a lot of people is that you couldn't handle defeat. Is that what you wanted people to think?
Not by all means. You know, it's so ludicrous to even make a statement like that. You know what I mean? Those things happen. You know what I mean? I dealt with defeats all my life, being an amateur. Those things happen. Both fought a good fight. I fought a bad fight. We'll do it again, hopefully.
What about the apologies from Don King when they finally came? Did that satisfy you, or did you feel he wasn't acting in your best interests, Buster?
Well, it satisfied me. Then, as I said in an interview before, I said that, you know, it was just a, you know, you never can, you know, Don has always been upright with me. You know, he's been putting me on the cards, you know, on the undercards of world championship fights, giving me the opportunity to show my wares, and even though at times it's been that it wasn't at the best performances, but he's always been up front with me, and I've never been in a position where I could tell Don that, you know, he was wrong, or that I've had the best of him, gotten the best of him. And in this situation, it seems like it's still like that because of the fact the way the outcome has came, you know, with all the controversy that was involved in the fight.
Mike, do you feel embarrassed by what Don King did, or do you feel he's fighting for your best interests?
Well, I mean, he, from my knowledge, he did what he thought was the best thing. Personally, you know, I mean, if he felt that was right, you know, I mean, protesting. Personally, you take it as it comes. You know what I mean? You talk it like you walk it. You know what I mean? By all means, I know Buster didn't beat the real Mike Tyson. He fought a great fight, no doubt. But I know.
Was the controversy over the long count real or contrived? Did the referee blunder, as he first admitted and then recanted? Did the true count get lost in translation? Let's go to the tape. Here's the knockdown again. We'll examine it in a moment. First, it's clear from this slow motion replay that the knockdown timekeeper and the referee aren't synchronized. They're off by 2 seconds in their counts. When the timekeeper signals 2, Octavio Meyran is just picking up the count. Now, if you notice the elapsed time of the knockdown, it's just under 14 seconds. But we'll show you later why the referee, in the context of common practice in boxing, performed normally. He did not err. Second, the question of whether Buster Douglas could have gotten up earlier in the count. At Meyran's count of 2, Douglas bangs the canvas with his glove in disgust for getting careless, seemingly coherent. At 5, he starts to get up as he listens intently to the count, then relaxes for another 2 counts, and he's up comfortably at 9. Third, something no one's raised. The timekeeper gave a quick count. He starts at 1 as soon as Douglas hits the canvas. Theoretically, he should begin his first count approximately 1 second after he hits the canvas. In any event, it's the referee's count that's decisive, not the timekeeper's.
7, 8, 9. Okay.
Fourth, an interesting coincidence. The elapsed time of the knockout of Mike Tyson in the 10th round. You got it, 14 seconds.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
So it's pretty well established that the 10 count took 14 seconds to implement for both fighters. What hasn't been fully explained is why the rest of what happened in the fight happened. Mike, let's get to the knockdowns first. You knocked him down in the 8th round. Did you feel at that very moment it was a long count? Were you angry when he got up that the bell rang?
Well, somebody had told me, I guess it was my trainers, was saying, because I was watching the count, and he said the fight is over. He stopped him. You know what I mean? Because I saw he was hitting the rope and he was jumping. You know, but I noticed it didn't happen. And you're in the wrong. I'm in the wrong position to complain because regardless if it was a long count or not, regardless, those things happen.
Were you frustrated that the bell rang, that you didn't have a chance to finish him?
Well, it took me by all at first, yeah.
What about you? If that happened in the middle of the round, Buster, did you have enough left to survive?
Yeah, I wasn't hurt. I just basically, I was off balance, and I just went back, fell back. But because if you see the tape where I hit the canvas, I was upset with myself for not being in the right position. As I was leaning over, and he caught me with a shot and knocked me back. As I got up on strong legs, and I immediately picked him up in the corner, expecting for him to come charging over to finish me.
So there's never been any doubt for a moment that you could have gotten up much earlier in the count.
Right.
Now, surely you understand that, knowing boxing, Mike, that he's supposed to follow the referee's count, and that he can't possibly know whether it's long or not.
Yeah, but of course I'm not blaming him. I'm not blaming anybody. It's something perverted had happened at the particular time. You can't cry. You can't cry over things like that. Cause
what about your knockdown, Mike? Were you shocked at this end, as other people were shocked, finding yourself on the canvas, reaching for your mouthpiece?
Well, I wasn't incoherent because I was trying to get my mouthpiece in my mouth. But the situation was that we were clashing heads in there, and I couldn't see that well, and I couldn't see the right hand coming.
I see. What about the rest of the fight, Mike? You've both looked at the tapes. What was he able to do to you that other fighters weren't able to do?
Well, he just fought a good night. He had a good fight that night.
Why weren't you able to get at him? Some people have claimed you didn't have your normal fiery spirit in the ring with you that night.
Well, regardless of the situation, why I wasn't fighting well, you can't take from the fact that, Buster won the championship.
Did you feel that 90% of Mike Tyson could beat 110% of Buster Douglas? Were you overconfident?
Well, I'm not going to say that. I won't make a statement like that.
Buster, did you have a game plan? You said immediately after the fight I was fighting him on instinct. Surely you must have had some game plan.
Well, get off first. That was the whole point. Use my speed and lateral movement.
Other fighters, their instincts for self-preservation kicks in almost immediately as the fight starts and they begin to sense Mike's speed and power. But you didn't seem to be rattled by that. That, it seemed to me, was the key to your winning, that you stayed in there with him.
Well, yes, I'm a man and he is a man also. And I accepted his challenge. When I signed that contract to fight for the heavyweight championship, I signed to fight for the heavyweight championship. And it was an opportunity of a lifetime for me, and I made the best of it. I prepared well for the fight, and everything just went according to plan.
You keep hinting here, Mike, that this was not the Mike Tyson. Were you in the best shape you could be in? I've read now that you may have been 10 to 20 pounds over your fighting weight a few weeks before the fight, that maybe you weren't as disciplined in your food and drink as you normally would be before a fight. Were you as focused as you should have been?
I can't comment. Buster, saying anything like that is just, just distorting away from the champion. And that's this far, he's the champion of the world. And I fought a fight, I didn't fight my best fight. He fought a splendid fight. I'm looking forward to getting it together again.
Looking backward, was the fact that Greg Page knocked you down in training, which has happened to you before and happens to a lot of fighters, did that indicate some laxness, some lack of focus on your part?
See, you must understand the fact that was just blown out of proportion about me getting knocked down. I never got knocked down in training. You know what I mean? I've trained and I didn't have great sessions and everything. You know, that's normal when training. Things like that happen. But like I said, I mean, two guys fought that night and he had a better night.
Buster, usually Mike establishes his dominance very early in the fight. Could you see anything different in the first round, second, third rounds, that he knew suddenly that he wasn't going to be dominant? Could you sense anything or see anything in his eyes?
No, because he continued to come in. He continued to, make his attack. He never stopped fighting. It was nothing that I seen where, I felt that I was in control. I felt, if anything, in the 8th round, I started admiring my work, admiring the fact that I was in there, doing so well and got caught with a shot. I had a relaxed moment, and I think it cost me on that knockdown. But other than that, no, I never sensed seeing how Mike was, had started faltering, because he was strong throughout the fight. He took good shots, and he kept fighting. He never once, seemed to be where he was giving up.
Now we want to show you some startling footage that shows that history repeats itself and that the 10 count isn't what any of us thought it was, and until now had no reason to question. September 22nd, 1927, Soldier Field, Chicago. The rematch of the champion Gene Tunney and Jack Dempsey, a part of the mythology of boxing. Because Dempsey had hovered over decked opponents throughout his career, a new rule was in force. When a fighter was knocked down, the count would begin only when the other fighter goes to a neutral corner. Dempsey dropped Tunney in the 7th round, but forgot the new rule. So the referee properly picked up the count late. Tunney barely got up at 9. Looking closely at the controversy, Dempsey surely put Tunney down with a vicious combination. By failing to go to the neutral corner, the clock shows that the referee's count begins at 5 seconds. The crucial sidelight to this controversy is that at the count of 4, Tunney is clearly looking at the referee, ready to continue. 9 seconds of real time had elapsed on the clock. The clear-headed Tunney could have gotten up and gone on. He went on to win the decision. But for a long time, people believed that but for Dempsey's goof, he would have recaptured the title.
What about that Gene Tunney long count? Would that be in?
Well, I hope so, because that was one of the greatest breaks I ever got. And the reason I say that, a lot of my friends who saw the fight still think I won it. As long as I can make them still think that, I say I'm a pretty lucky guy, because Gene's a pretty small fellow.
Under the scrutiny of today's technology and media, the myth would have been dispelled much earlier. 63 years after that celebrated incident, Tunney's stare at the referee was duplicated by Buster Douglas.
5, 6.
The rule: when a contestant is knocked down, the referee shall audibly announce the count as he motions with his right arm downward, indicating the end of each second of the count. If the contestant taking the count is still down when the referee calls the count of 10, the referee will wave both arms, indicating that the contestant has been knocked out. The letter of the rules present a paradox between the count of the referee and the count of some imaginary timepiece that neither he nor the timekeeper uses in the heat of battle. The 14-second knockout is commonplace. So Octavio Meyron was doing in Tokyo just what comes naturally to all referees. All right, we've examined the fight from every angle but a canvas cam, a camera from underneath the ring, and the corner cams. Douglas naturally had a happy corner. Tyson, curiously, a rather calm corner. Mike, did you know you were in trouble in this fight? Was your corner alerting you to the fact that you were falling behind and that you needed to do something fierce and dramatic?
Well, I never think about that. I never have that in my mind. Thinking about being behind. It was a tough fight, and I had to come back and fight hard.
Don't you think it's a corner's job to say, listen, Mike, you are behind and you got to step it up?
Yeah, they expressed that. I knew it's just a matter of time I'll catch the guy. I was doing my best to come on, but as you say, we were clashing heads, and I was trying to face him on the other side because it was very difficult for me to see him from my left side.
Your corner only had a problem after the 8th round. What was the sense of it there? How did they deal with it?
After the knockdown?
Yes.
Well, they rinsed me down and questioned me to see if my faculties was in order. And after they found out that I was all right, then they went on and instructed me to continue fighting. They instructed me in a way to continue to fight.
Well, did they say, look, he's going to come out after you, you've got to buy time?
No, never. He came out after me every round. So we knew where he was coming.
So you were going to find out real quick whether you could deal with him after the knockdown.
Right, right.
Mike, you've repeatedly stated you couldn't see out of that left eye. How much did it contribute, do you think, to the beating you finally took in the 9th and 10th rounds?
Well, regardless of my difference, one of them was close. I had another one. That's all that mattered to me. Taking the punches wasn't nothing.
But you couldn't see out of that eye,
well,
and he was hitting you with right hands.
Well, my heart was beating. That's all that mattered. So I just kept fighting.
Are you angry at all at the men in your corner for not treating the eye in the right way, in the accepted way? They didn't have an end swell to try to move it. They didn't have an ice bag.
You can't blame. I'm not trying. You can't. Anyone tried it, because you must have been thinking, reading those papers. People saying you had a corner that was, mature, immature. That's ridiculous. We went out there, we lost to the guy that fought the best that night. But there was no reason. Regardless, so what? If you got your eyes closed, you got one eye. You have another one. Use that one. You fight to the finish, man. You can't make no excuses.
Perception out there is that you have surrounded yourself with some affable fellows who you like and who like you and make you feel good, but that they don't have the authority to drive Mike Tyson to the furthest point in training to really move him. Is that an accurate picture?
No, and that's a ridiculous insult on behalf of my intelligence, because the people that I have involved in me, the people that I trust, and people are basically my childhood friends, John Horn and Rory Holloway. You can't blame them. You can't look for somebody to blame or something. Because they're young and inexperienced. They're on the job training.
No, what the charge is that you're at fault for not bringing more professional guys that could push you.
What? Bring somebody that comes in like a week before the fight and train me or something? That's ridiculous. Well, that's ridiculous. The people that I'm with, I'm very comfortable with. It's just that out of 37 fights, I had 37 good nights, and at the 38th, I had one bad night. There's no means, no doubt in my mind, regardless of his decision, he's running around, running off with his mouth saying he's going to fight, make me wait, or his manager make me wait, he's going to fight. Regardless of who he fights, I'm going to get my title back, regardless. If he fight Holyfield, and hopefully I'm going to get it back from Holyfield, regardless.
Buster, we've talked about Mike's conditioning, yet you were sick for a week and a half before the fight, and you're never famous for being in top condition. How did that affect you?
Well, it had no effect, I guess. I went out there and fought the best fight I could. Like I said, I signed the fight for the heavyweight championship. It's a dream
Weren't you taking penicillin and other drugs?
I was taking penicillin and antihistamine and some this mouthwash to gargle from my throat because I had inflamed my throat was swollen also. So I was a bit under the weather also.
But the fight pumped you up so much that it didn't affect you at all?
Well, I fought to the best of my capabilities. I got out of what I had.